Rams quarterback Matthew Stafford is finally back at practice, but how has he looked so far? Also, Sean McVay gives a key update on an offensive lineman that the Rams need this season. Will he be ready to go in week one? Also, the Rams make some roster moves. They make some signings. That's coming up next on Locked On Rams.
You are Locked On Rams, your daily Los Angeles Rams podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, Ramily, and welcome to another episode of Locked On Rams, your daily podcast covering your Los Angeles Rams. Free and available wherever you get your podcasts. Locked On Rams, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We're also available over on YouTube, so if you haven't yet, do me a huge favor. Join the party, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell. And everyday viewers, if you want to support this show every single day, hit the like button, drop a comment. Also, podcast listeners, write us a review. We'll read it on the show. My name is Doug McCain. Friends call me DMAC. You can follow me on X and Instagram at DMAC_LA. I've covered LA sports for over a decade, 24/7 Sports, Bleacher Report, SI, Dodgers Nation. I also do NFL radio for Westwood One. Today I'm flying solo. The People's Champ, Mr. Travis Rogers, will be back tomorrow. But we have a jam-packed show. Matthew Stafford's back at practice. Is he going to play? Alaric Jackson, the Rams left tackle, will get an update from Sean McVay on his available for the Rams opener against the Texans on September 7th. Also, the Rams make some roster moves. But first, today's episode of Locked On Rams brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Gametime. We've got so much Rams football to get into. Let's get right into it. Of course, we have to start with Matthew Stafford. So that has been the dominating storyline early on in preseason. When would Matthew Stafford, the Rams Super Bowl winning quarterback, the future Hall of Famer, return to practice? And after Saturday, when the Rams did not want to confirm whether or not he went through a workout and if he would be good to go for Monday, Aubrey Pleasant, who was coaching that game, did not say anything. The Rams didn't release any statements or any information. And then Sean McVay didn't talk to reporters on Sunday. A lot of people were waiting to see, would Matthew Stafford be practicing? And the Rams went to their social media and they posted a video of Stafford in the pads, in the red jersey, in the helmet, going to practice. And he practiced. And after that practice, Sean McVay said it was good to be able to have Matthew out there. He did a good job today, thought he looked good, but I don't really have any updates. I think there was a lot of intended information, but there's no updates. We're going to keep it day to day and really a week at a time. It was great to be able to see him out there today, and we'll have to see how the afternoon goes and tomorrow. Sean McVay said that it was, quote, a very fluid situation that demands flexibility, and that Matthew Stafford is, quote, doing everything in his power to get back. So he has been dealing with that aggravated disc, and that is why he has been unable to practice. So the good news is this was the big first step. This is what you needed to see. And we don't know if he is going to be ready to go for week one, but we do know that he did practice a second time, and that was big. The fact that he did not have any setbacks after going through that first practice and felt good enough to give it a go for a second day, I think that's extremely encouraging because Sean McVay has been asked multiple times if Stafford would go in week one, how confident he is that he'll be ready for the opener. Sean McVay said, quote, I think that would be putting the cart way before the horse. I thought he did a good job today. So he's not going to be committing to anything with Stafford for, I think, a while now. I think you're going to need to see a week and maybe longer than that for them to give you anything definitive. But a couple things we need to see, we've seen. The main thing, getting back out to practice for the first day. And then today, we saw him get out to practice for the second day. So having go out there and ramp things up, that was a big step. And we have some information about that. The details of his second practice are that he took about 26 snaps during team drills, and he was a full participant. So they are not slow playing this as far as trying to speed him up, and it'd be one thing if he was out there just observing and maybe taking a couple of snaps. No, 26 snaps is intense, right? I mean, that's good enough to say, okay, he's feeling good enough to take 26 snaps. You got to feel pretty confident that things are trending in the right direction as that back continues to heal, because aggravated discs, they are no joke. And Sean McVay did say that they're not going to commit, and we still don't know. But what we do know is that he's made it through 2 days, and that is incredible if you're a Rams fan, incredible if you're this organization, because this is exactly what you were hoping to see. I think there was a lot of fear amongst Rams fans because of how cagey and secretive and cryptic the Rams were after the preseason game 2 on Saturday, because we just wanted a little nugget, some information. I was texting everyone I could, and even they, the biggest insiders for the team, were like, hey, they're not saying anything. So now we know he's there. Now, we did get some insight from Ian Rappaport, the NFL insider at Rap Sheet, who was on Good Morning Football, and he detailed how the optimism has been for the Rams and Matthew Stafford. And Rappaport said, quote, "The fact that QB1 for the Rams was on the field yesterday was a very, very big deal. Cannot possibly overstate this. This is really what we've been waiting for over the last couple of weeks for Matthew Stafford." And Rappaport did say that the goal for Stafford now is just consistently practice without having any setbacks. He worked out last weekend before the Rams game against the Cowboys, but was unable to go on Monday. So we've seen times so far where Stafford has had workouts but has suffered setbacks. So this is the first time where you are piecing together quality days. You're stacking quality days, and you feel good enough to give it another go. Remember, he did have the epidural. I'm sure he's getting around-the-clock treatment and the best that you can possibly get. So we'll see what this means for the rest of this week. Rappaport also said the Rams were just trying to get to a point where they got some improvement, got some positive momentum for his back, and he was able to practice. The fact that he was able to do it yesterday is an excellent sign. He didn't do 60 throws. It was more like in the 20s. They took it real easy on him because the goal is not to go out there and play a game. He's not going to go out there and play a game tomorrow. The goal is to get him back on the practice field at some point. Maybe it's today, maybe it's tomorrow. The hope is no setbacks, improvement, and Stafford is able to be upright for week 1. So, look, that's the focus. All eyes, all the attention, September 7th against the Texans. Will he be good to go? That's the hope. If not, Jimmy Garoppolo, he is a cable backup. And Stetson Bennett, we've seen a great showing from him. He's impressed early on. One of the big stories from the guys that have played in the preseason is the growth of Stetson Bennett. So, look, the truth is both those guys wouldn't make you feel like, okay, we're the favorites to get to the NFC title game or anything like that. But still, I think at this point there's no, oh, this is something that's really bad and we're very concerned about Stafford. I mean, clearly he's going to play at some point early on this season, and it's about really how he responds in game action, how physical he can still be, and how this impacts him. But look, let's be honest. We know now, and the truth is it's been good, positive developments for the last 48 hours with Matthew Stafford. Now, another key update provided by Sean McVay is regarding Alaric Jackson. So Alaric Jackson is another guy that if you're ranking most important players for the Rams, he's certainly in the top 10. There's no doubt about it. Now, just to rewind on Alaric Jackson, the Rams signed him to a $57.75 million contract this offseason. So they fully committed to him. And his status for week 1 is another major thing to monitor as we get closer and closer to the opener. But you did get an update from Sean McVay on Tuesday, and it was more good news for the Rams. McVay said about Alaric Jackson, quote, "We have a good idea, but again, I want to take it a day at a time with him and Matthew. These are situations that I know are probably frustrating for you guys, but we're hopeful. But again, it could be any sort of setback. There's no reason to think that this is a situation that I haven't navigated before, but he's doing great. He's handled it like a stud, like I mentioned yesterday. I think his focus and concentration is being ready to go for week 1, and that would be a great situation for us if that's the case. So more optimism, but also McVay, he understands that he doesn't want to get caught in overcommitting or saying something that people can come back on and say, oh, but you said this. Oh, but no. So he's protecting himself, but still, that is optimistic. Now, his absence has certainly impacted this team during preseason because the team drills without him there and being a participant of them have allowed other guys to get first-team reps. Guys like DJ Humphries, who they brought in after they really discovered that the blood clots was going to be an issue again this season. And he's a guy, he's a Pro Bowl pass. Yes, he's dealt injuries, but he's someone that's very capable. David Quessenberry and Warren McClendon Jr., they've also got extended run, and they've got more work in with Jackson out. So the Rams do have some options, and they have other guys they can turn to. None of those guys have the ceiling and the consistency of an Alaric Jackson when he's right. But I feel pretty darn good after hearing Sean McVay's latest update. I mean, I think that he's going to most likely be the starting left tackle when they start the season. So these are two really good developments. I mean, anytime you're recovering from blood clots in your leg and you're having to adjust to new medication, there's always going to be questions because that's a major health concern, and it's something you cannot take lightly. So a positive on Stafford, a positive on Alaric Jackson. Now, another injury update that is less encouraging that we have to get into involves another one of the breakout stars for the Rams during this preseason. Really, the story after the first game was about Willie Lampkin. And Willie Lampkin had that really, really big first game against the Cowboys. And we talked about his height, 5'10 and a half, and being dominant the way he was, but he's going to be out at least a couple of weeks with multiple injuries, a knee injury and an ankle injury. Sean McVay said today that Lampkin suffered that injury on his knee and the sprained ankle in the week 2 win over the Chargers, and that it's going to be a few weeks. And when you look at kind of where the Rams are at with their roster, and you have to cut down to 53 players by August 26th, Lampkin's not going to be able to practice or play in their final preseason game. So he's not going to have those opportunities to continue to win over his coaches and player development and Les Snead and kind of just give them more looks about what he has the potential to be. And this is just awful timing for Lampkin. I mean, this is a guy that was really turning heads. He was the story of the first couple of games because of how good he was. Despite being an undersized interior lineman, he was straight dominant. Had a PFF grade in the 90s after that first game. But you kind of look at it and you look at the size and you say, well, I mean, at 5'10", 270 pounds, going up against some of the strongest, most physical dudes on the planet, it kind of makes you think of what his career could look like if he played that position against starting defensive linemen for an entire season. So it is, for the lack of a better phrase, a bummer. It's a bummer because, I mean, this was something that I was really excited about, and for him to miss a couple of weeks, the undrafted rookie out of North Carolina, he was an absolute baller, a straight-up stud for the Tar Heels and early on here for the Rams. So we'll see what happens with that, but yeah, don't expect to see him at any point in the remainder of the preseason. We'll see what it means as far as his roster status. But coming up next, the Rams make some roster moves. What are they? To what positions? Someone who was in this organization before? Who is it? That's coming up next on Locked On Rams. And a reminder that today's episode of Locked On Rams is brought to you by FanDuel. August 26th is officially FanDuel Futures Day, a brand new holiday for football fans who live for bold predictions and preseason hunches. For just 24 hours, FanDuel is giving you deals on NFL season predictions. So whether you're calling your MVP, eyeing a long shot division winner, or ready to crown your Super Bowl champ before week 1 even kicks off, this is your moment. So I'm looking at the MVP odds according to FanDuel. Lamar Jackson at plus 40. Josh Allen plus 600. Joe Burrow plus 600. Mahomes 650. I'm going to take the wild card pick. I'm going to take the wild card pick and say Jaden Daniels at plus 1,000. I believe in him. He's a great quarterback already in his young career. I'm just going to go crazy with it and say Jaden Daniels. As far as my Super Bowl pick, I'm going with the Los Angeles Rams, a plus 2,000 to win the Super Bowl. Of course, I'm taking the Rams. So head over to FanDuel, all kinds of cool stuff like this. You get a lot of cool stats and info, and then you could definitely parlay your division winner and your dark horses. So visit FanDuel.com, visit the FanDuel app today, and start planning your futures bets now because Futures Day is one day and one day only. FanDuel, play your game. And we are off and running here on Locked On Rams. Thank you for making Locked On Rams your first listen every single weekday. Free and available wherever you get your podcast. Locked On Rams, part of Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day. Want to send a special shout out to those everyday listeners out there watching and listening to every single episode of Locked On Rams. I've seen the numbers lately, more viewers, more listeners than ever. So I'm assuming we've got new listeners and viewers to the show. And if you're new to the show, now's the time. Join the Everyday Listeners Club. The season's almost upon us. It's time to lock in. Don't be the fan that watches one episode a week, 2 episodes a week, listens to 1 or 2 a week. Lock in. Watch or listen to every single episode. Join that Everyday Listeners Club because you are ball knowers. We love you. And this is kind of where we break it all down, and then you won't miss a thing about your Los Angeles Rams. But here in our second segment, let's get into some roster moves. So the Rams do not have to trim down that 53-man roster until next week, but they've already started to make some moves. Today, the Rams, they freed up 2 roster spots. They also signed a player. The Rams announced on their official Twitter, well, I still call it Twitter. It's now X. But the Rams tweet out. But here's the thing. If it's not called Twitter, then how come when people still tweet, they call it tweeting? No one says, oh, the Rams X'd out, right? Okay, I digress on that. But the Rams tweeted LA Rams roster moves. Reserve injured outside linebacker Kyer Thomas, waived injured wide receiver Mario Williams, signed active roster offensive lineman Mike McAllister. So let's start with the, I think, most significant move of all of them is them announcing that Kyer Thomas is on the injured reserve. Now, with Thomas, he played just a handful of snaps in their second preseason game, and then he came out of the game, so we don't know exactly what he's dealing with. And then with Mario Williams, he's also someone that he's made just a couple of catches, 2 catches for 46 yards. Did have that 38-yard touchdown, that really nice dime from Stetson Bennett in the second game. Also had a little penalty on kickoff return on special teams. So I don't think it's necessarily performance-based, but I mean, the odds of him having a role in this team were always a long shot to begin with. But there is a new rule, though. So there's a rule change in 2024 that allows teams to place 2 players on injured reserve before cutting down their roster to 53 players and designating them to return. So you could theoretically have Thomas back at some point this season. It's not over for him. But Mike McAllister, you might remember him. They brought him in 2023. He was on the practice squad for most of 2024. Has never actually played a game in the regular season for the Rams, but he has been in the organization for multiple years, and you bring him back for some depth. So those are the roster moves that they have made. And I think really one of the big questions kind of is the offensive line. It really is. I mean, just talking about Alaric Jackson today, seeing how these guys have continued to kind of build what their core is going to look like to start the season, you need guys to step up in the event that those guys aren't able to go. And even guys like Rob Havenstein, I mean, he underwent offseason shoulder surgery. Alaric Jackson, we talked about the blood clots. But you look at the rest of the offensive line, and I think these backups and the depth of this offensive line is the best it's been in a long time, because you've got some veterans, the DJ Humphreys, the David Quessenberrys, just real kind of long-time journeyman style linemen. And you just kind of look at some of the performance numbers for the first couple of preseason games for the backups, and they're putting up really good numbers. I mean, think of how many times you can picture Stetson Bennett going down, or how many times he's been pressured. I mean, the Rams have not played any starting offensive lineman for this entire preseason, but here's a great fact that really proves that the depth is certainly being developed and could be a major asset to this team and a strength to this team is that the Rams, despite playing 0 starters during this preseason, they rank first in Pro Football Focus blocking grade at 81.7. The Vikings are behind them at 76. And yes, Willie Lampkin Jr., who is injured, he deserves credit for that. But still, it shows you that they've been able to churn some guys out. I mean, you got a couple guards that are right up there, and you look at just the inability for opposing defenses to get home against them. You feel really good about it. I mean, other guys down too. Wyatt Bowles, Justin Dedich. I mean, Bowles is someone, a UDFA out of Utah State. Dedich, who was undrafted out of USC in 2024. He started 3 games, and those are the wins. So I look at this Rams offensive line as one of the biggest keys to the season because you've got Matthew Stafford, who we just don't know how he's going to bounce back and respond to those hits. So keep that jersey clean, keep him as vertical as possible, and you'll feel good about this season. But coming up next, a lot of talk about the successor for the Rams. I want to fit this in here because it could impact the Rams' future at the most important position in all of professional sports. Who's that? That's coming up next on Locked On Rams. And a reminder that today's episode of Locked On Rams is brought to you by Gametime. Have you ever decided at the last minute to head to a ball game with friends or family? Maybe it's game day and you suddenly realize you want to be in the stands. That's exactly where Gametime comes in. It's the easiest way to grab last-minute tickets without the stress. With the money you save on tickets, you can splurge on food, drinks, merch, or even invite a bigger group to come with you. Gametime makes it possible. Gametime makes buying tickets fast and simple. Prices on the app actually drop the closer you get to the first pitch, and they've even got great, incredible last-minute deals. Clear seat views and the lowest price guaranteed. That takes the worry out of buying. Gametime's the official ticketing partner of Locked On MLB, making it easy to browse the app for an exciting upcoming MLB game. Hey, maybe you're a Dodgers fan, summertime still. Go down to San Diego and take in a Dodgers-Padres game from Petco Park. It's an incredible ballpark. There'll be a lot of Dodgers fans there. I highly recommend doing that. Take a little road trip, little weekend vacation. I'd do that if it was me. So if you're tired of endless scrolling, trying to find the best deal, Gametime Zone Deals, pick the best seats in your section for you. Seat views right in the app before you buy so you know exactly where you'll be. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Down the Gametime app, create an account. Use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Down the Gametime app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. And welcome back to Locked On Rams. Thank you for making Locked On Rams your first listen every single weekday. Free and available wherever you get your podcast. And here in our third segment, we're going to talk about the future of the Rams. And what we're going to talk about is Arch Manning. And yes, I don't think anyone really wants to talk about Arch Manning because Stetson Bennett's look great. You still have Matthew Stafford under contract for 2 more seasons. But my job here is to make sure there's nothing that is not on your radar involving your Rams. And it is very clear that when the Rams traded out of the first round to pick up that extra draft pick, that they did it for a couple reasons. One was to give them some extra draft capital and some more assets in their war chest if they did come across a win now piece at the deadline to get them over the top. And 2, possibly find a successor for Matthew Stafford that you could draft in the 2026 NFL draft. Well, the biggest question that's linked to the Rams is Arch Manning going to be available? Well, there's been a lot of speculation that Arch Manning would not enter the 2026 draft because he hasn't played a lot. He's making tons of money in NIL deals for Texas. I mean, his last name, pretty sure he's not hurting for cash, right? But there was a really interesting development from CJ Vogel, who tweeted out the question that he asked Arch Manning about his future and if Arch Manning was going to go. And Arch Manning, he said that he refuted his grandfather's comments that he would be open to the NFL draft, right? Arch Manning's grandfather, he told Texas Monthly, Arch isn't going to do that. He'll be at Texas, saying he was not going to go to the draft, where he right now is projected to potentially be the number 1 overall pick. And what Arch Manning said when he was asked about his grandfather's comments, he said, quote, yeah, I don't know where he got that from. He texted me and apologized about that, but I'm really just taking it day by day right now. So I just thought it's interesting. The Rams have been linked to Arch Manning for months now. It was reported that the team sees him as the only tier 1 quarterback. So for anyone that doesn't think this is relevant, that just means that you're not completely following all the tea leaves and what this organization has done. Les Snead was at Texas's pro day. And yes, there's multiple reasons why. He had a connection there, but he knows what he's doing. He wanted to put eyes on him. He wanted to get in his mind a little bit. And it has been reported that the Rams, they view Arch Manning as, like I said, I'll say it one more time, as the only tier 1 quarterback in the 2026 class. Someone they could see as Matthew Stafford's successor. And they believe that the Rams view him as a potential Josh Allen type of prospect. So that's all you really need to know about how the Rams view Arch Manning and how highly they think of him. So it's a lot of football to be played until the draft in April of 2026. There's no guarantees that the Rams or the Falcons will be in a position to get close to having the draft capital to have the top pick of the draft. But we've also seen this is a Rams organization that when they feel like they have their guy available, like we saw with Jared Goff in 2016, that they're willing to pay big if they believe in him. And clearly there's something about the Rams and Arch Manning. I mean, tell me if I'm crazy, but you do feel that, right? There's something connection-wise. I've seen the jersey swaps. I've read all the info. I've heard. There are things, right? And yeah, it's no guarantee. Absolutely not. A lot has to happen. But to say that this isn't worth at least discussing when this is in the news, it would basically put you in a spot where if something does happen, you'd be blindsided by it because, yeah, we'll have tons of time to talk about all things Rams related. So we'll get into that tomorrow. Tomorrow we're going to talk about more practice nuggets, what to look for in preseason game 3, and also, my man, my favorite, have you guys been watching the Squad Show with Michael Brockers and Gavin Carlson? We're doing another 1-hour episode tomorrow, so be on the lookout for that. But that's going to do it for this episode of Locked On Rams. My name is Doug McCain. You can follow me on X and Instagram at DMAC_LA. And until next time, whose house? It's Locked On Rams house.